Sorry, my friends. Finish up my jog here, and it's time for the leadership lesson of the day. All right.
If you like leadership content or coaching tips to make your job easier, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video.
So, stop blaming your crew, my friends. Look, when I was a shift manager too, and I remember the no-show, no-calls. I remember those, and trust me, just like you, I used to get upset when people didn't come in. We had a lot of goals to meet, we had a lot of targets, and we're looking for results. So yeah, I used to get upset, and I would get on the phone and I'd try to find them, and I would leave some not so friendly messages, and I was surprised when people didn't show up on my shifts or quit, But thinking back on it now, 35 years later, I learned that lesson a lot sooner than 35 years. But just reminiscing on it now, that was not the way to do it, my friends. And I know a lot of you guys out there get upset when people don't show up. And understandable, right? Understandable. It happens in my restaurants. And I tell my people, and talk to them and coach them through that situation. And really, there's only 3 things you can do, and hopefully these 3 things help you manage it. So here they are. Number 1, send them a message. Text them. Let them know. Now, what kind of message do you send? A hard one or a soft one? A soft one, my friends. You do not want to be the one that is yelling through the phone on a text message that they didn't come in and they better call you or X is going to happen. You don't want to do that. That's not very professional. I know you're upset. I remember being there. Okay, I remember. But, they could be going through something. And we have to be people first in understanding. Stuff happens. It happens to you. How do you want to be treated if something happens to you? And you could say, I call. Yeah. Sometimes you can't. It happens. I've been in accidents before. I've been hit, or I didn't know what happened. And trust me, calling was not at the top of my list, right? I was making sure that I was okay. My car was totaled, and it happens. So how do you want to be treated? So send them a soft message like this. Hey, X, you didn't come in today. We missed you. We struggled without you. We really needed you. I hope you're okay. Please let me know if you're okay. As soon as you get this message, please try to call me. And again, I hope you're okay. And that's it. You're showing you care. You're showing you're trying to see what happened, and you're also letting them know that you miss them today. Okay. Again, look, if something did happen to them, and they're struggling through it, the last thing they want to do is call an upset boss. They're not going to do that. Okay? So take it easy. Now, how long do you take before you call them? I would, if they don't answer right away your message, give them a little bit, and then send them a message, and then I'll call them, right? And again, what kind of voicemail do you leave if they don't answer, or what do you tell them if they do answer? You want to be soft, my friends. Again, other folks, other coworkers are also watching you, and how do you want to be thought of? Somebody that's understanding and can sympathize with people, compassion. Something did happen. I'm not saying don't worry about the no call. That's going to be you're going to hold them accountable, when you finally get them in the restaurant later on. But right now, you're trying to figure out what happened, right? So, you should say, hey, I sent a message earlier. I'm just following up, just checking to make sure you're okay. You never not call, so I'm worried about you. We definitely missed you. And as a reminder, we do want you guys to call before you're gonna miss work. But again, I'm just calling to check if you're okay. Please give me a call back as soon as you can, and I will talk to you as soon as I see you. And that's it, my friend. That's all you gotta say. Okay? Now, once you get them in the restaurant, now it's step 3. Now you document. You listen, you talk to them, and obviously we all have responsibilities. We all have to be accountable for our actions in a professional workplace, right? So now you do that. You know, even if it was if it was something that's understandable, you know, you also want to document. Again, this is not disciplinary type of, you know, hey, next time you're fired, you know, you're just documenting what happened. You know, oh, you had a flat tire, or you were in a car wreck. You know, okay, I'm just documenting that that's what happened today. You know, and that's it. You leave it as that. It could have been their only time. You know, and you just document. You just document. That's the professional thing to do. You know, and again, what kind of leader do you want to be? You want to be one that's understanding, you know, that is professional, that is communicative with your team, and you're supportive and you listen. You know, because remember, you build up your people, and your people will build your business. You know, so you want them to take care of you, you need to take care of them too. You know, and I'm not saying don't hold people accountable. You want to do that, and you're doing that now by sitting down, talking to them, you're listening to them, you're documenting everything they tell you, and that's all, right? And if that's the only time they do it, then it's great. You know, if it's somebody that's been doing it a long time or a lot of times, you know, you're going to hold them accountable for that as well. But there's no reason for you not to be professional, right? You know, because again, remember, other people are watching you. Whether you're in the right or you're in the wrong for being upset, people are watching you. People are looking at what kind of leader you are. So be the leader that people want to follow. Be that likable leader that I've talked about in my other videos. Okay? So again, those are the three things you should do to manage the no call, or the dreaded no call, no shows, my friends. So again, as a reminder, you're only as good as your last visit, my friends. So all right, I'll see y'all on the next one.